Hello, it's Chad. Heard what news? NAR settled. Didn't this case just start? $418 million? No more 6%? How am I supposed to put food on my table? I have a family. Within 2 months? Oh no. All right, thanks. All right, I apologize for my weak attempt at humor there. This is a very serious situation, and I appreciate everybody that has reached out with questions, concern, and just wanted to check in to make sure that I was okay. Everything's fine. I do think everything's going to be fine. There will probably be some changes, some necessary, some are good, and then obviously some will probably not be good. That's kind of how everything goes. But to give you guys an idea, for those of you that live under a rock and haven't heard the headlines, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, has been sued or is in the middle of a lawsuit with a handful of brokerages regarding the process in which a buyer's agent gets paid on a successful transaction. For those of you who haven't sold a house or just not familiar with the process, when you contact a listing agent to list a house, whatever commission you guys negotiate, of that, traditionally, a portion of that will be offered for buyer's agents. Buyer's agents are the agents that work with buyers to show them the house, navigate the contract, also help them through the process of inspections, any of the contingencies, anything that comes up. That is what a buyer's agent's responsibility is. And if the deal successfully closes, of that commission that was offered to that listing agent, we then share that with the buyer's agent. That's how it's been done for years and years and years. However, in this lawsuit, the seller was upset that they were paying for the buyer's agent commission. They felt that the buyer should be paying the buyer out of their own pocket. In turn, they would have paid in less commission versus what they actually did. So I'm just going to use numbers out there. There is no such thing as a standard, but the standard on these headlines is the 6%. 3% would have went to the listing agent, 3% would have went to the buyer's agent. Before jumping into anything else, I want to make something very clear. That 6% or whatever percentage that the headlines talk about, that's been negotiable for forever, right? There may be agents that tell you they will not list a house or not work for anything less than that, but it's always been negotiable. In fact, and I apologize to any of the agents that are going to be watching this that know me and work with me, but I haven't charged a client 6% in a very, very long time. It's a lot of money, but hey, you do you. And with that being said, I feel, just my personal preference, is that if I do a really good job and I charge what I feel is fair, and you feel like I got a great value for that, the more likelihood you're going to refer me to your friends and family, or anybody for that matter. And in turn, that keeps me busy. That keeps me getting deals, working with clients, especially right now in 2024 when there's a lot of agents that are really, really struggling. I'm on pace to have a pretty normal year, which is pretty amazing. And it speaks volumes to all of the clients that I've worked with that feel like they have gotten a great deal and great service. Thus, my name comes up first when somebody's talking to them about buying and selling a house. So that means everything to me. But moving on to the lawsuit specifically, there are a lot of changes coming. And what is coming down the pipeline, and which has been agreed upon, is that MLS will no longer, or agents rather, will not be able to share what that co-broke being that amount of money that listing agent is willing to share with a buyer's agent. We will no longer be able to advertise that. I'm sure there's going to be workarounds. So again, this is still pretty early, but because I've been getting so many questions, I want to touch on this. This could lead to some things, but I don't want to put more fear in the air than that's already out there. It's going to be rather difficult for buyers agents to want to work with buyers if they don't think, or if they're not going to get paid to do so. Why would you want to do something if you're not going to get paid? It's going to take time away from your family, time you could be doing things that are more productive, etc., etc. I think we're all on the same page there. But without that certainty, buyers will likely be representing themselves. And for a lot of people that have never done this before or have never written a contract or don't know how to handle a contract, it could get very scary. The other thing that they're pushing for is that buyers pay for out of pocket their agent. And sometimes on these larger houses, those commissions are pretty substantial. So for a buyer who's barely scraping by with a debt to income ratio, which is what is calculated when determining what your pre-approval amount is, what you can afford per the mortgage lender, that will then get added to your debt to income, your debt ratio, which will then lower your buyer affordability. And with current values being incredibly high, interest rates are very high. Save me, mortgage lenders, they're high. I don't care what they historically have been. So you have a combination of very expensive houses with very high rates, making payments very high brings affordability down. And now you want to add this on top, going to bring affordability down even further. What does that mean? That means there's going to be less buyers being able to afford a higher amount. So now when I go to list a property, a seller is going to say, hey, wait, I thought there was, a hot market. There was, 30 people looked at my neighbor's house 6 months ago. There was, 15 offers. This might push us into a position where all of a sudden, we only got 5 showings and maybe get 1 offer. Again, that's speculative. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We're going to find out over the next few months on what actually is going to come out of this. But I do have some fears. I think there's going to be some changes, as I referred to, but probably more good than bad. And with that, it is scary. It is scary for agents. Am I going to be working with buyers in the future? Am I only going to be working with sellers on listings? I don't know. I feel for a lot of the newer agents. I feel for a lot of the people that are just getting into the business or people that have only worked with buyers. This could be devastating. But at the same time, I really don't think much is going to change. I think things are going to stay pretty normal. And I think sellers are going to realize that, hey, by us paying the percent, again, everything's negotiable. I can't stress that enough. Everything is negotiable. If you can negotiate a great deal with your agent, and if you can't, call me, but if you can, then I think it's going to get into a win-win situation. And I'm going to talk about that very shortly with some examples. But please do your homework. Please don't just settle on one agent unless you know that agent, you trust that agent, and they've got a great rap sheet, great reviews and all those other things. Then you're probably safe going with that person. They know what they're doing. They're going to get the job done for you. But if you're just calling somebody off of a sign, just know that there's options. There's options, right? Everything is supposed to go in effect the middle of July. My hope is that they're going to come to some type of agreement to push this out maybe to 2025, just to give everybody time to kind of work through and process through all these changes. They got to get a lot of forms fixed. MLS has got to change the way that they do things. There's just a lot of changes in a very short amount of time that I'm hoping that gets extended. That would be best case scenario. By then, I think everybody will be on the same page. They will have seen how things go for the remainder of this year, and then we can make necessary changes going into 2025. But at the end of the day, I think everything's going to remain pretty similar. We're going to be able to look back at this video and either I'm really right or I'm really wrong. But I do think that it is in the best interest to do it the way that it's currently done. It makes it so that a buyer can work with the agent with zero money out of their pocket. It's free to them. And if the seller gets a number that they are ecstatic to take, everybody wins. So that's just my thoughts, guys, and I want to give you some examples of what I'm talking about when I say that. So let's jump into those examples, and then I'll kind of wrap it up at the end. For instance, this piece behind me, 8 acres, beautiful, it's on a lake, has all gorgeous views, great frontage. Problem, Anytime you're buying near water, there are some major challenges. And so the buyers that contacted me to buy this knew that they were paying a premium for this lot, but they had never bought land before, especially land that has water frontage and has some major restrictions as far as building location on this lot. You would think with 8 acres, you could build anywhere. That's not true. And because of that, we had to go through a wetland delineation. We had to have a survey done. We had to have soil samples. We had to have perk tests done. All of these things the buyer would never have done. And the seller knew that if I didn't help them do these things, the deal would never get done. In the end of the day, the deal closed. Seller was ecstatic. Seller was happy to pay that closing check, or that commission check rather, because they knew that they otherwise probably would have never sold this on their own for anywhere near this amount. Those are things that would not happen without buyer representation, or the buyer not being represented by somebody that knows what they're doing. If you're buying land for the first time and you're not represented, you're leaving yourself open to a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, a lot of everything that you could think of. What could go wrong will probably go wrong. So please, for my sake, I don't care who you use, do yourself a favor and get represented by somebody that knows what they're doing when buying land. Or this house behind me that was listed for sale by owner. The seller had tried for a few months in a hot market to try to sell this property, and he was sick of wasting his time showing to buyers that thought, or they told him that they were qualified and they were ready to buy. Turns out they weren't. So I stopped here to talk to the seller. The seller said, I'll tell you what, I'm so frustrated. I want you to list this. I'm happy to pay you, and I'm happy to pay our buyer's agent. Just get this thing gone. We ended up selling it, and he netted more money than he was asking for as a for sale by owner. He can't praise my name enough, and that to me is what we do. That's the value that us as agents, really good agents, bring to properties such as this and to sellers and clients that we work with. Or for example, this 37 lot subdivision. My seller has his active real estate license. He could absolutely represent this entire subdivision himself and not have to pay any agent any commission. But to him, it was more valuable to keep his time and let me deal with the phone calls, the questions, the showings, the emails, everything you could deal with, on top of it, marketing and the expense to get this thing sold, to get all these lots sold. It was well worth it for him to pay me and the buyer's agent a very little percentage to get this done. To him, it was well worth it, and to a lot of sellers, I think that is well worth it. I could go on and on with more examples, but I think you guys get the point. At the end of the day, working with a great agent that provides a tremendous amount of value is going to benefit you far more than paying 1-2% less on a buyer's agent commission. I'm telling you that right now. I've experienced it many times. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out, leave a comment, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and I will be bringing more updates as we find out more. Hopefully in the next week, we'll have a better idea if it's going to be approved. I think the judge has to decide on that. And then going forward, as we start to kind of come up with some remedies, I will share those with you, specifically the agents that are watching this. Hang in there, the new agents and the agents that have been working with buyers, hang in there. It's not all doom and gloom. I think we're going to be just fine. Just remember that, with every hiccup, we're going to get stronger. We're going to get better. It's going to force agents to become sharper, add more value, provide more value, and it's no longer going to be just throw a sign up in the yard and collect your 6%. So again, thanks for watching this video, guys. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please ask. Thanks.